They say that when you morph, sometimes 3/4 of your guest's audio gets lost and you have to turn a full episode into a mini episode. Let's try it. I want to be a mongoose.
Welcome to Animorphs 55, the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex.
I'm another host, Patrick.
I would be a third host. I'm Zach.
Oh, you are. You're
And today we have a special guest with us who has graciously put up with travailing through numerous technological issues to find himself here with us to have conversations that are hopefully a little bit less frustrating than the ones that we had right before this recording. We have Chris Grine today. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Chris Grine. I'm the artist, and I guess I adapted and I did all the art for the Animorphs graphic novel series, books 1 through 6 currently. And I do other things too, but that's why you guys are having me on, so we can just focus on that.
Yeah, what do you think about this Animorphs community that you've stumbled across, and why are we the best podcast out there? But also, what do you think of the community?
Wow. I love the community, honestly. Being somebody who's kind of grew up as I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and Marvel, MCU stuff, all that stuff, right? Comes with a lot of toxic fan base stuff, right? So when I got into the Animorph stuff, it was kind of shocking for a while how friendly everybody was, and I kept waiting.
You just expected it?
Yeah, like when is this gonna turn? When is it gonna get nasty? And when is everybody gonna hate me for what I'm doing? And but it never happened, and it's just been one of the most welcoming communities I've ever kind of experienced, and I love it. I'm kind of disappointed that it looks like book 6 may be the last one, at least for a while, because God, I really loved kind of being on the podcast with the fans and people who grew up with this stuff and just talking about it, kind of geeking out. It's been so fun that it's. In that sense, it's kind of disappointing for me that it's winding down a little bit. But
is there a sign as to that, or is it more like radio silence is the sign?
Well, you mean about more books and stuff?
Right.
Scholastic isn't sure if I think they've got to do their little their money people have to look at stuff and evaluate things, and like when I did the first books 1 through 3, it was like my first contract, but way before I finished that contract, they were already re-upping for the next 3. So I, just kind of assumed that was going to happen again after the fact. And then they kind of, waffled back and forth a little bit. They weren't sure, they weren't sure what's going to happen. They needed to check sales and things like that. And then, there's been a lot of, COVID was a little while ago, but I think a lot of companies are still kind of reeling and dealing with that stuff. And then now we got all the fun new tariffs and things like that, with paper costs a lot more. So I know that a lot of publishers, just in general, are having to really reevaluate what books they pick up now. And I'm experiencing that kind of firsthand because I've been pitching a lot of stuff. And I've had a lot of good responses from people that I've worked with. And they're like, we love this, but then, but we can't do it right now. We just can't, we can only do. And it's a little different, and I think that it may have fallen into that category just a little bit of it wasn't selling necessarily like millions of copies, like some of their like all ages type what they refer to as like slice of life type books, which are a lot of the middle school, the Babysitters Club, a lot of the Raina Telgemeier stuff, which is so wonderful. But a lot of that stuff falls into like an everyday, like kids are at school and making friends and things like that. So, and I think that's where they make a lot of their money, is that kind of stuff. So when they start getting off a little bit on the more sci-fi, a little bit more on the fantasy type stuff, I don't think those books sell quite as well for them. But I personally think they sell pretty well, but they just have a different metric for what they measure that stuff with. So I think they're just a little hesitant about it right now.
Do you think the pipeline's changed since the 90s, whenever these books were first coming out in the first place, where, you had Scholastic book fairs, which obviously they had their finite fixed amount, but they also had ordering sheets, and they had methods of kind of, batching these together. Is it different to see these days where they need to order it much further in advance, or is it shorter in the sense that they just say, we need it now, and if you have it ready, we'll put it in?
I'm not sure, because I know that the average turnaround time on like a graphic novel of these sizes is about 18 months from start to finish. And that doesn't include the printing time. That's like from the artists or the writers and all that, right? So I got it down to like 6 months.
Oh man.
I was turning these things around like two a year, and there was still people going, "How come we're not getting the monthly?" Like when
faster.
You don't. I was killing myself for you guys.
No, I was gonna say, the expectation with like Goosebumps and Animorphs was like one every month, and so do you feel like maybe you should massively downgrade your art quality to be like back of the napkin quality, and just say, here you go?
Yeah, I don't think that would help. I think if anything, that would ended it a lot sooner.
I mean,
we got to get Chris Grine back.
Or I might have actually started to actually get real Animorphs hate if I had done that.
There you go. That's
why is Jake a stick figure? This is some crap right here, Chris.
You spent all this time drawing Rachel, and then Jake's just a stick figure. Hi, it's Future Patrick. At this point, Chris's recording software crashed, and we try to figure out if everything is lost or just some of it. That's not very interesting, so let's just skip ahead until we start recording again.
What was I saying right before I disappeared? Do you guys remember?
Art quality going into the hate mail, and then we asked Patrick, you said something.
Yeah, I was gonna say what kind of how did you cut it from 18 months to 6 months? Like, what did you have to, I don't know, sacrifice to bring it down to that?
I made a deal with the devil. I typically work pretty fast anyway, and so I've over the last couple. I mean, even prior to working Animorph stuff, I try to annually like sit down, like take like a day or two, and just kind of go through the internet, like everything, and look for ways to streamline like my process as a graphic, designer. Like maybe it's just ergonomics at my computer, or maybe it's a new software, or maybe it's like just actions or something in Photoshop or whatever. So I just try to do that at least once a year, maybe twice a year if I have some time, and it takes my time down a little bit. So I found a like I can do pencils pretty quickly. I work on those on my iPad, so I can kind of take that wherever I'm at and work on them. But when it comes to like flatting and things like that, I've got a really good flatting plugin for Photoshop that it doesn't do it all for you, but it makes it a lot quicker. It goes from like what would maybe take me a couple hours per page to flat, to maybe 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, but still, when you're talking like 200 plus pages, I mean, that still is
that's significant.
It's a volume, yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of just get in a rhythm and work, 8 or 9 hours a day, just kind of working and, listening to music or watching something on my second monitor or something. And I just kind of go. Basically, I know like when it's due, and then I just break down like, okay, this is how many pages I got to get done every day, in order to meet the deadline. And if I get done early and I still have some energy in my tank, then I'll maybe squeak in another page or something, or at least even just like a couple panels, from the next pages, takes it off my next day or whatever. So, but I've heard a lot of people online, saying, well, they need to hire other artists and writers, and, and do like, everybody like does one, and it's just kind of like multiple people working on these things all at the same time. And I understand why people would want that. But the problem is everybody works at a different speed. I don't know anybody that works as fast as I do. Mm-hmm. And so I could say I could get a book done in 6 months, but we still may be waiting a whole nother year for another team to do the book that comes before mine.
Right. And then you're sitting there waiting.
I'm sitting there waiting. And also like when I was in full control of like the adaptations and stuff, when I was adding jokes, ongoing kind of jokes and things happening, like you lose that too when you start having other teams come in. Like you lose the thread of certain things you might be trying to do. And I had just said like, and I think people took it the wrong way, but I had said like, if Scholastic decides that they want to do that and they want to do more books per year or whatever, and have other teams come in, that's fine. That if they want to do, that's fine. But I will be done.
Yeah,
because that's not what I want to do. Right. And I think I saw people going, why does he think he's so awesome? He doesn't. It's sort of like, that's not what I was saying.
What, Chris, you think you're too good for us?
Well, I think some people maybe thought that that's what I was saying, but it wasn't. I was just saying like, it's not that I'm a control freak, but I am, I guess, to some degree. I just, if I was going to do it, I wanted it to be mine while I was working on it, And, having to work with other people I don't know, or people who maybe just have different work ethics than mine, or whatever, is just setting myself up for like a lot more stress than I was already, kind of dealing with just the deadlines that I was doing and everything. So
did you have to like, as you're doing them, I'm sure that you're looking ahead a little bit in the story to just like see what's going on and everything. Like, how far into reading did you get with the mindset of thinking like I might be doing 7, 8, 9, whatever? Like, how far in are you at this point? Because I think it was, if I remember right, it was you were a little old for it when it first came out, so it kind of missed you a little bit. So like on your catch up, how far are you?
Well, I got to like, okay, so when they pitched it to me, I hadn't actually read any of them yet at that point. I'd read part of the first one, but I'd never gotten back to it for exactly what you had mentioned. It's like I had started college, and about the same time the books came out, and so it was just like just out of my view. I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
I think I would have loved them though. If it just come out like 2 years prior to that, I would have been a huge Animorphs nerd in high school. But it just missed me a little bit. But
in college, having like a pink book with Rachel turning into a bat wasn't gonna really make you the cool kid.
I don't know. It was art school, so it probably
okay, that's fair.
Like anybody would have looked differently. I got this weird thing. So I would read a handful of them when they'd send them to me. I'd read all those books. Like when they gave me the contract for the first 3, I read those books, cover to cover multiple times.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I started to read like book 4 and 5 just to get a sense of it. But I did read like synopsises on like the Seropedia page. So I had a general idea of what was going on. And I also used that because they had somebody went in there and they have inconsistencies.
Yeah.
At the bottom of that. So I took all that into my notes too. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to fix that if I can. As I'm going.
Which I noticed like right away you did. I mean, in like the first one, like
I tried my best to be as subtle about it as I could, but fixing things and
Whoa, cool. I'm a mongoose.